Did you ever find yourself stuck in an awkward silence during small talk, wondering what to say next? Trust me, you're not alone. Most people, even native speakers, stumble on the same few words that just stop the conversation. Picture this. Someone asks you, "Hey, how's it going?" And the reply is just, "Fine." Boom. Conversation's over. It's like dropping a bowling ball in the middle of a dance floor. Everyone freezes. Now, here's a tip. Skip the vague words like fine and just add one small detail. Like, say something like, "I'm doing well. I just tried a new cafe." Or maybe something like, "I'm pretty good. I've been catching up on a great new show." That little extra that you add gives the other person something to build on. Small talk is meant to keep things moving, not shut it down. And just like tying this bow tie, a little care with your words makes all the difference. Tonight, I'll show you exactly which words to avoid and what to say instead to keep your conversations alive. And don't forget, stick around because in the Mastery Minute, I'll share a classic idiom about silence. And if you ever wondered why people ask about it when someone goes quiet, you're going to find out tonight. Drop your questions in the chat and I'll answer a few live after the Mastery Minute. And say hello. Hello, Glisten BB. Nice to see you. And don't forget, like this show, subscribe, and share it with other people so that they can learn with us. And let's dive right into it. So, let me introduce you to James. James is a sales manager from Singapore. Brilliant guy. He's full of ideas. But every networking event, he felt like he was invisible. Why? Well, because his answers that he would always go to were conversation stoppers, or what I call conversation killers. Someone would ask, "How's work?" And he'd say, "Busy." Or they'd ask, "How's the family?" He'd say, "Fine." And that was it. There was no bridge, no spark, nothing to continue, so the other people would just nod politely, sip their drink, and move on. The truth is, James wasn't bad at small talk. He was just using the wrong words. Some words end the conversation instead of feeding it. Once we worked on swapping those dead-end answers for open ones, people started to get closer, and they'd laugh, and they'd stay and talk. The difference was night and day, and guess what? It helped his sales as well. So, what are these conversation stoppers? And how can you replace them with better responses? Well, let's break it down. I'm going to talk about some of the three, or what I call the three worst offenders. That is, the words and phrases that seem harmless but quietly shut down the conversation. And after we look at those, I'll also share the best way to fuel a conversation. Things like the AAA rule. That's what I call the AAA rule. Answer, add a detail, and ask a question. This, along with using open-ended questions, is the key to keeping small talk flowing. Let's jump into it, shall we? So let's talk about conversation killer number one. Okay. These are the top two. Fine and busy. The top two conversation small talk killers. Think about it. If someone asks, "How are you?" and you reply, "I'm fine," Or they ask, how's work? And you shrug and say, busy. Where can they go from there? Nowhere. The conversation dies on the spot. I had a student named Grace who always answered this way. Always. People would smile politely and then they'd drift off because where do you go from that? So what did we do? We practiced adding just one extra detail and everything changed. Instead of busy, she tried, it's been a busy week, but I finally wrapped up a big project. Now I've got something to work on. I can ask a question. Oh, what was the project? Instead of fine, she started saying, I'm doing well. Much better than fine. I just started training for a marathon. Whoa. Suddenly, people started asking more questions about her project, about her training, and the difference is that she gave them something to build on. And that's the key. Add one small detail that invites a follow-up question, and that will help you to keep the conversation going. Otherwise, you're just kind of boring. All right. Number 2, avoid one-word answers. Yes, no, maybe. What do? They shut the door. I mean, imagine someone asks you, do you like living here? Now, if you just answered yes, well, that's the end. I had a client named Marco who always did this. He thought short answers made him sound more efficient. But instead, they made him sound distant and cold. Nobody wanted to talk to him because people didn't know how to continue. It's very similar to fine and busy and other things like that. So when I coached him to add just a little more, conversations opened up. Instead of just yes, he tried, yes, I love the food here. It reminds me of home. Suddenly, his colleague might ask, oh, really? What's your favorite dish? And a whole new exchange began. And that's how you build a connection. Step by step, by giving people something they can respond to. Okay? Don't just give these one-word answers. Really, it kills a conversation faster than just about anything. All right, conversation killer number 3, negative starters. Be very careful with starting small talk on a negative note. Complaining about the weather or traffic is easy, but it sets a gloomy tone. I once worked with a student, we'll call her Lena, who always opened the conversation. Now I say always, but often opened the conversation by saying things like, oh, the traffic was awful. The weather is terrible. And people would just kind of nod politely, but the chat often ended right there. Because what do you say with that? So when Lena tried shifting her words, the change was almost immediate. Instead of saying the weather's terrible, she started saying, it's rainy today, but I'm looking forward to the weekend. Yeah. Maybe she had some big plans, right? Or instead of the traffic was horrible, she would say, the traffic was heavy today, but it gave me time to listen to a good podcast that I like. So suddenly, people started asking her about the weekend plans or the podcast. So she still had the chance to be honest, but she left space for positive thinking or something positive to talk about. When you start putting positive thoughts in your mind, it gets easier, trust me. People are more likely to continue a conversation that feels encouraging. Trust me on that one, yeah. So, and I want to give you some tools now. Tools to help you fuel the conversation. So, we talked about what not to do, so now let's balance it out. Here are a couple tools that you should use. First one is the AAA rule. And I've been coaching this for a long time, and I have a full course that goes into it if you're interested. The AAA rule is answer, add a detail or two, and ask a question, something that's relevant or similar. For example, if someone says, "Hey, how was your weekend?" don't just answer good unless you don't want to have a conversation. Instead, say, "It was good. I went hiking in the mountains. Have you ever been there?" Hey, there you go. You've answered, added a detail, and asked a question to keep things moving. Second, use open-ended questions. Instead of just asking, "Did you like the movie?" or "Did you have lunch?" try, "What did you think of the movie?" or "What did you have for lunch?" These kinds of questions invite people to share more than just a yes or no. The more space you give to them, the more natural the conversation becomes. I'll give you a quick story. A student of mine, David, used to ask his coworkers yes or no questions like, "Hey, did you finish the report?" And they'd answer with one word and move on, yes or no. But when he switched to open-ended questions like, "What part of the report was most challenging for you?" his coworkers started to open up. One colleague even shared a clever shortcut that they discovered. That turned into a real exchange. And David told me later, "I feel like I'm actually connecting with people instead of just checking boxes." That's what a true leader would do. You know, that is the power of these tools. They don't just check the boxes, they keep the talk alive and they turn it into something meaningful. All right. So, I've been doing the positive self-talk. I'm going to stick with this. I want you to remember, if you struggle with self-talk, remind yourself it's not about being perfect. Okay? It's not. It's about being open. So, share one small detail in a conversation, like a recent meal or a show that you watched, and let that be the thread that other people can pick up. Adding a detail or a short story, it really does work. And you'll be surprised how it helps to melt the ice or break the ice. So now it's your turn. Anybody, what is one word or phrase that you've caught yourself saying in small talk that ended the conversation? Think about it. Drop it in the chat. And listen, this happens to native speakers too. I do it still to this day. And I have to catch myself. And let's drop it in the chat. We can find some better alternatives together. Okay. Now, I want you to try this simple challenge this week. Change just one of your usual short answers like "I'm busy" or "I'm okay" into a fuller reply with a small detail. See how the conversation grows from there. Okay? Simple, right? And if this conversation, if this video has been helpful to you, like it. Share it with a friend who wants to get better at English conversations, who wants to break through that small talk hurdle. And you can also read the article, the full blog post at allaboutenglishmastery.com. The link is in the description. And if time is tight for you, my course, Mastering English for Busy Professionals, is built for you. Just 10 minutes a day can give you practical words, habits, and confidence. Give it a look with the link down in the description or in the chat. Drop your questions in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them right after the Mastery Minute. Speaking of the Mastery Minute, that's what time it is now. Oh my goodness. And I love this one. This is a really good one. I almost used this for our Hard C episode on Monday. So my question is, have you ever had someone look at you in silence and suddenly ask, "Cat got your tongue?" It's a strange phrase, isn't it? It's one of those expressions that people use when someone is unusually quiet. But where does it come from? It's really strange, right? The origins are actually more interesting than most people realize. Some historians will trace it back to the Middle Ages. when liars and blasphemers, those are the people who say bad things about God, supposedly, this is the story, they had their tongues cut or ripped out and then fed to cats. Ugh, gross. Now, another story, and I like this one because it points to the English Navy. Okay? Sailors were punished with a device called the cat o' nine tails. It was a braided, 9-strand, basically a whip with 9 strands on it. And they would be beaten for punishment. And often after the beating, they were often too sore or too frightened to speak. And so others would tease them with the phrase, "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" Whichever story you believe, the meaning has stuck. It is used when someone goes quiet in a moment when words are expected. All right? So, if you ever freeze in conversation, don't worry. Just share one small thought or ask a simple question. That way, silence doesn't stretch too long and nobody has to tease you with, "Cat got your tongue?" All right, that's all the time we have for tonight's episode. Next time, well, actually, just recap here. We talked about the things to avoid in small talk, like fine and busy and one-word answers, and we talked about what to say instead. Try them out. Make some small changes, and it'll make a big difference when it comes to building connections. Next time, Friday night, we'll dive into some native English expressions. Everyday phrases that make conversations sound natural. We'll explore where they come from, what do they really mean, and how can you start using them with confidence. And that's it. If you found value in tonight's session, hit that like button. Hit it. Hit the like button. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. I'm Dennis Wilborn, and this has been 15-Minute Mastery. I'll see you next time. Oh, wait.